what's going on, guys? It is Gamerman here with Warhorse, and today we're talking about probably the craziest, longest, and most unique adventure I have had the privilege of being allowed to do. Today we are talking about my very first Amtrak adventure. Now, Zeus is also here, so he's going to say hellos from occasion. Now, how this video is going to work, I want to talk about how this video is going to work before we get into the video itself. The cat is very much making my life a difficult situation. So, God, he's going to make things a problem, so he's just going to sit here for now. So how this video is going to work is very simple. The first thing we're going to discuss is that there will be photographs and there will be video footage spliced into this video showing pictures and video of the events that are taking place that I was able to get pictures of, because a lot of the time we were just sitting and resting. I was the one getting up and moving around the train because I've got railroad legs because I've got experience on the trains. The second thing is there are two shorts on YouTube already that show some of the stuff that we're going to be talking about, but we've got longer clips and content that are going to be in this one that were not shown in the shorts where I was on Amtrak, and we're going to be discussing more things accordingly. Now, our adventure was kind of already off to a rough start. We got up at 3 in the morning, and I'm going to throw up a map of the adventure of where we went, and it's going to be over the screen right about now-ish. But what we ended up doing was we woke up and we headed to Creston, Iowa, because that was where the train station was that our first adventure started with the California Zephyr. Now, the California Zephyr is historic because it was originally on the Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy. There were several Zephyrs on the line, and this name carries over from that and still runs relatively the same route. This train was 4 hours long, which is the shortest train part of this endeavor. Now, we got exclusively coach class tickets. We did not have the ability to have a sleeper car. We did not have the luxury of the diner car for most of this endeavor, but we did have access to a lot of the amenities that come with Amtrak. I also want to give a very, very large shout out to my brother, who you have not seen since these two videos. I'm not kidding, it's been that long. Well, one of them is a short, the other one is obviously a very old video from a while ago. He was the one who pitched us the idea of being able to go on this for my birthday, since I've never been on an Amtrak. So, our first train took off 2.5 hours late because of a thunderstorm that came through that same night. So it was delayed considerably, and we were not aware that it was delayed until we got to the station. So, our first hurdle was getting to the station. We had a friend of ours take us, and it was choreographed that he would also most likely come and pick us up from the end of this endeavor. Keep in mind, this is starting at 3 a.m. on Friday of July. So this video is probably going up Wednesday of July. So it was a crazy endeavor. We finally get on board the train, and it takes off like a racehorse. We had maybe 2 minutes to get from the waiting room onto the train as quickly as we could, because they were not waiting around. They were moving. So when we got on board, that is when I took this photograph right here. I took a photograph of us zipping down the railroad in the observation car, which we sat right behind of. There was 2 sleeper cars, a baggage car, a dining car, and 2 coach class cars. And the observation car was in between the sleepers, and then the coach cars. So it went sleepers, diner, obs, coach. Now, there is a clip of us going down the railroad on the first endeavor, and I will throw up an unedited version of it at some point, but here is the footage of us zipping down the railroad. We were probably clocking a good 70-some miles an hour, just running down the rails, moving like a racehorse. It was an amazing experience to get to just watch the scenery go by from a perspective that you don't get from air travel, really. You can technically get it from car travel, but you don't get the same kind of thing. It was really, really unique. Now, the first hurdle we started to face was that we packed light. We packed a backpack and an over-the-arm carrying bag that Warhorse embroidered. That was it. We carried the clothes on our back, the clothes in the bag, and whatever snacks we could cram into the bag, the other bag. So that was all we had. We didn't have sleep gear, we didn't have blankets, nothing. So the first hurdle was like, well, how are we going to sleep on the train? Because we knew that was bound to happen. Well, that solution gets solved later in the story. Cut to 2 hours into our endeavor, and my cell service cut out. And this would be a reoccurring problem that continued the entire length of the journey. Because, turns out, trains go through a lot of dead zones. They go through, we went through probably 25, 30 dead zones on the second endeavor of the rail, versus the first one we went through 2. So we went through like 30 some endeavors of just no cell service, which means I couldn't watch videos when I got tired. I wasn't able to listen to music like I wanted to. It was an interesting challenge, but it gave me the opportunity to just observe. I was able to just ride along the tracks, and I was able to look out the window and have a really good time. Now, there were instances where we closed the window because we were like, the sun is in our face and we don't want that in our lives. So we were just riding down the rails, enjoying it, chatting, and having a good time. The train did arrive on time. We only had one layover stop. Now, a layover stop is like a 30-minute stop where people can get out and smoke, they can get out and stretch their legs, and it's a crew change and refuel point. So all of the amenities got replenished, all of the water got replenished on the train, the crews got replaced, and all the trash and garbage and everything was removed from the train, and they did it exceptionally quickly. They give you one warning that the train is about to leave, and you have got to get on board in that time frame because you have 1 minute after that warning. So I jumped back on board the train because I chose to run outside. And we continued our endeavor to Illinois. Now, this adventure leads us to Texas and Denver. Or Texas and Colorado, but specifically San Antonio. So, this journey was taking us a long way. So we end up getting to our first stop on the journey in Gladberg or Galesburg or something like that. We get stopped in Illinois, and I took the opportunity to prove how long the train stops. This clip is just after we stepped off of the train. It wasn't more than maybe a minute, and I was able to turn around and catch the clip of the train blitzing away. Like, it took off so quickly. I was shocked at how short these stops really are. Now, back in the day, in passenger service, and like even at the Boone and Scenic at our museum, we stop at the station between the 1:30 and 4 o'clock train for 30 minutes. So we are dead stopped for like 30 minutes-ish. It's rounded occasionally because sometimes we have extra guests that require like a handicap lift to get on board the train. So it could be 35, 45 minutes to get these people on board the train, which is not a problem. I'm not, and like anyone with a disability, I get it. I've worked with the lift before, I know how it feels. But my first thought was, if someone with a disability tried to get on this train, where would they go? Because it was the bi-level superliner cars. These things are not wheelchair accessible. Like, they do not have ramps, they do not have any sort of way of like actually letting a handicapped person on board. If you have a walker or a cane, you could maybe do it. But this particular train had bi-level. One level was where the passengers were, and the second level was all crew. Or at least on the second train. The first train, the first and second levels were available to customers. So I'm assuming it was like part commuter. So we get off of the train and we have a 45 to 50 minute layover at the station, and I snapped this photograph of a preserved CB&Q steam locomotive, and there are, according to the museum owner, 17 surviving sisters of this class. What I failed to get a picture of was the fact that we passed one of these surviving class in Burlington, Iowa. Did not know, first of all, did not know there was a Burlington, Iowa. Second of all, I didn't know that there was that many of this surviving class. Unfortunately, as far as they were aware, none of these are under steam. None of them are running, which is kind of an upsetting thing, but at the same time, it's like at least this many of them survived. It was also like 90 degrees, 80 degrees out, so I was sweating my butt off, and I was wearing a sleeveless shirt the entire time because I was like, I'm not going to wear any sort of sleeves. I'm not sweating my butt off. So when we are done at the station, we get a call for a commuter shuttle bus that was supposed to pick us up from this station and take us to Springfield, Illinois, which I will show another map of. It is a 2-hour trek by car from station to station. Now, I was unaware of why we had to take the commuter bus until I realized, and it was explained to, that the California Zephyr and the Texas Eagle, the two trains that we were taking, both terminated at Chicago. But because the Zephyr arrived after the Texas left, you have to catch a bus if you're taking the Zephyr to catch the Eagle. I was not aware of that. So we end up getting on this bus, and it wasn't a bus. It was a 10-person box van, essentially, that took us from the first station to the Springfield station. And I was like, at first I was kind of like, whatever, it's cool. Oh, I totally forgot to mention something. So, jumping real quick back to the Zephyr, they made a call over the intercom that the dinner service was only going to be held for an hour. The luncheon service was held for 1 hour because they were that far behind that they could not serve any longer than 1 hour. So it was a first, second, and third call for dinner. But they informed everybody on the train that it was open to all guests because of this fact. So I ended up having a dinner meal on the train, and this is a picture of the meal, me bringing it back to Warhorse so that she could have what I did not eat. Now, the funny thing is, everything in the diner car was $25 dead, which means every single item you ordered was $25. So if you're feeding like a party of 4, and each of them order one item, it's $100 for one person to pay for it all, which is a bit steep in my mind. But then again, air travel feels like the prices of everything in the airport are redonkulous, and the stuff on the plane is decent, but still expensive. So we finally get to this, the Springfield, Illinois train station, and I call my family, and I'm like, hey, we're done with the first train, we're now waiting on the second train, everything is currently going according to plan. It was at this point that Warhorse and I collectively decided we needed to find a way to get sleeping accommodations. Which is when we walked into the Illinois station and we found a poster for passenger comfort packages for $20. Now, what these are packages of a pillow that can be inflated by air, a eye mask, 2 earmuffs or earplugs, and a blanket. You're supposed to technically buy 2 of these, 1 per passenger, which is why they get their money for what they get. The downside was I could only afford 1, so we had to split it between us, which was a bit of a challenge. I still have it. I'm gonna go show it later when I can track the thing down, but that was our next hurdle, was getting that sleep gear. So we got the sleep gear, we got a couple snacks in the station, and then the train got delayed. So it was from Creston all the way to Illinois, it was on time. From the transfer between stations, the 2-hour gap, it was still on time. It wasn't until we arrive at the station that it gets delayed by 25 minutes, which isn't bad. It then got delayed by 17 minutes because it was supposed to take off at 5. So, if you're keeping track, we started the Endeavor at 3. The train didn't arrive or take off till around 9 o'clock in the morning, and we are now getting on a second train at 5:17 p.m. So we have already been moving for well over 12 hours on this Endeavor. Which means, theoretically, we could have flown from Omaha International Airport or Des Moines International Airport, been in Texas, and flown back in the amount of time that it took us to ride the train. Is that a problem? No, because it was a chance for both Warhorse and I to have a wonderful time looking out at the scenery, looking at the windows, just enjoying the experience of riding this train. So the next train arrives, and I got video footage of it right here, of us being able to watch the train pull in. Now, the difference between the Texas Eagle and the Zephyr was, for such a small train, the Zephyr was running with 2 locomotives. Here's a picture of the 2 locomotives. Meanwhile, if you watch the footage, the Eagle is being pulled by a single locomotive. So I was trying to figure out if that was done for efficiency, or if that was done because one engine died and they needed the extra head power, or if the Zephyr got shortened as the trip progressed. So, what ends up happening on the Texas Eagle? The Texas Eagle was the longest section of this entire Endeavor, because it left at 5:17 p.m. on the Friday. And I was completely under the assumption we would be arriving at about 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. to noon at latest on the Eagle. I was wrong. And unfortunately, so was my brother, who had planned and choreographed everything around us arriving in the morning. The Eagle arrived at 10:15 p.m. on Saturday. So that means that we were on the train for over 37 hours collectively. 37 hours through the Amtrak ordeal. Was this a bad thing? No. I got to see some incredible things at night that you don't get to see during the day. I did get to sleep on board the train. I slept both in our seat and in the observation car, because that was just allowed. I fell asleep in the obs car because it was so much colder in the obs car, because that's a thing. Amtrak trains are fully air conditioned and fully heated, depending on the time of year. And the California Zephyr was brilliantly cold. I love things to be chilly and cold as all get out when I'm anywhere. I love the cold temperature because it helps me sleep and it's more comforting. The Texas Eagle, on the other hand, I don't know what was wrong with the train, but it felt like outside of the observation car, it was blistering hot in the coach cars. It was warm. And it only got warmer as the train continued down the track until the sun went down. So, that made it kind of uncomfortable for me with the heat, but everything else was totally fine. I was totally okay with everything. Now, on the Texas Eagle, the rules are different. Because on the Zephyr, you had assigned seating to where you had to sit in coach. The Eagle did not care where you sat. They openly were just like, pick a seat, sit down, we're leaving. So we picked a seat closest to the stairwell so that we had ease of access to the restrooms, which were on the second level of the car. Story for later in the video. So we started our endeavor on the Texas Eagle. and I immediately noticed that it was warm, and I tried to turn on the overhead fans that I thought were above the seat. Turns out they're little spotlights because the train has a special moment on it. In my opinion, it's special because I've never seen this before, where at 10 o'clock at night, the crew announces that they will no longer be announcing station stops over the intercom. They will be coming directly to passengers and informing them and waking them up that this is your stop, it's time to get off. That's what they did. So above us, in our seats, there was a little lip inside of our number of our seat that they had shoved a piece of paper into that had our station stop on it, so that they could, during the night, figure out who was where and be able to be like, okay, this person's getting off here, this person's getting off here, this party's getting off here, whatever. Now, the major difference for me between the seats on the train of Amtrak and the seats that I have dealt with at the Boone and Scenic is a time difference, because my seats are from like the 20s or even the early teens. So these seats are bench seats that flip. You can push the back of them and it'll flip them over. Amtrak seats recline a total of, I want to say, like 3 to 4 inches. They recline backwards. So the level of reclining I'm doing now, it was legitimately more like I'm sitting up straight. That's about as far back as I could go. It's not far. It was maybe about that far. At most, that far. So it's not a lot of leaning space. What they do have, however, is an additional section on the chair next to you that not only controls the back of the seat, but you pull an additional lever and can lift up a footrest that you can put your feet on. There's also a footrest on the back of the passenger seat in front of you. So you have 2 different ways of putting your feet up, if you're interested. Now, the Texas Eagle, I was like, ooh, we're gonna go have a dinner on the train, because I've had dinner on trains before at the Boone and Scenic, because they've allowed me to have the wondrous privilege of booking the dinner train. By the way, if you haven't booked the dinner train tickets, do so. It's freaking amazing. It's a delicious meal on board. But the Texas Eagle had a different rule that the sleeper class and first class coaches were the only ones permitted to use the dining service on board, which was a bummer, because I really wanted to see what it was like to have a dinner on board the train and a breakfast on board the train. But considering I only got the lunch option on the Zephyr, and then I was told, like, no, you cannot use the diner car because you did not pay for a space in the diner car, I was kind of like, well, that's a bit weird. You would want everyone to have access to the diner, right? Because obviously back in the old days of railroading, everyone had access to the dining car. Everybody had access. Now it's limited. It's a very restricted access to the car. What I found out after the fact is that the reason that it is so restricted on the Eagle is because it goes so far. So they have to make sure that the people that need the food have already prepaid for their spots in the diner so that you can show up and be seated. It's not like a restaurant on wheels, which is odd because I would think they'd want that to carry over from the old era of passenger service. You would want the ability to say, everybody can get a meal. Their solution to this is in the observation car on the first floor of the car, there is a cafe accommodation, which is where we spent most of our time getting food. They had warm food, they had cold food, they had bagged food, and they had many drinks options, including options for those who are 21 and up. They had alcoholic options on board, like wine, beer, and seltzers. They did have one whiskey option that I saw. One, but I didn't see many other options for higher tier alcohols. But I don't drink, so it wasn't my concern what they had. I was interested in the sodas, the teas, and the juices. Now what shocked me was the quality of the cafe car. Because I have been incredibly used to doing stuff in planes and airports and things like that. If you're wondering what I'm doing, because this is going to be unedited except for a couple of cut-ins, Zeus just used the bathroom, and it smells like a nuclear armament. So, the cafe car had a very good selection of non-perishable and perishable items on board. You could even get coffees, cocoa, milk, and many other things on board. As far as I could tell, you could even get an espresso, but I don't know if that was a special request or what. So, but unfortunately, I never got any pictures of the cafe car. I did, however, stream in the cafe car, linked in the description of my Twitch account, so that I was able to be like, yes, I did in fact go to there. I even streamed on board the train. But, thanks to my stepfather, we did have beef jerky, and here is a clip of me trying for the very first time ever kangaroo beef jerky that he got for us while he was in Wisconsin. And we were able to eat most of the beef jerky while we were on board. A couple of them we didn't eat because we tried like a bite or two, and they were just too spicy for us. So we're just like, no, we're not gonna eat that.
Perfect.
So, all right, see you later. I know, that's why I said see you later, not bye bye forever. So.
Okay, I'll leave.
No. So the rest of this endeavor was pretty much smooth sailing. We had a couple of moments where the train rocked really hard or bounced a bit, and I must admit, with my bad knees, it was nigh impossible to sleep at first. I want that to be very clear. It was nigh impossible for me to sleep at first, but eventually I got myself comfortable and was able to sleep in the coach seats. They're quite comfortable, which is shocking. I wouldn't think that they would be that comfortable, but apparently they're specially designed so that people who can't need to sleep in them can sleep in them, which is cool. Now, going back to what I was saying about the whole 10 o'clock no announcements thing. The train has this interesting feature, and I asked the conductors about this, what it's officially called. It is called nightlight mode. And what this does is it shuts off all of the main super lights in the car. So it shuts off the big white lights, the fluorescence, throughout the entire train, with the exception of the observation car. The observation car remains fully lit. All of the other cars, however, get replaced with blue night lights across the top of the train in specific sections along, and they're patterned so that it's like every couple of feet or so there is a additional light. Now, the walkways were also lit, and at night they went from a bright white to a soft green color throughout the endeavors of the excursion. So it was very, very cool that we got that I got the opportunity to see what a night train was like. And a lot of the times I was looking out the window was when there were dead zones in the area, because it was just so unbelievably gorgeous in these dead zones. Because at first I would be like, oh great, we're in another dead zone. But then I would go to the observation car and look out the windows and look above in the observation car, and you could, even with the observation car lit like a city, you could see up in the observation car and just look up and see the stars. You could still see the stars and the clouds and the moon and everything as we're blitzing down the railroad. There were also multiple times where our train had to stop, because for those who are not familiar with Amtrak, they don't own a lot of the railroad that they run on. In fact, most of, I think like 90% of Amtrak's track is borrowed from freight railroads. So they're working around freight trains and being choreographed around them. So more often than not, during the night, there were 2 or 3 times I can count where we were pulled off to the side and a freight train would come blitzing by about that far away from our train. It was crazy how close these meets were getting, and how close these freight trains are blitzing by on these railroads. It's nuts. It's incredibly cool. This whole endeavor on the train was awesome. And the conductors were constantly coming through the train very quietly, mind you. They were coming through very quietly, and they were being very respectful. But they would ask the passengers that are awake if they needed anything. And they would do their best to take care of the passengers that were awake, and the ones who were asleep, they left alone. They didn't bother the ones that were sleeping, which is really, really sweet of them, and it's really awesome that that's their level of care. We did, however, have an incident that scared the crap out of me just a little bit. In the middle of the night, I want to say about 11 to 12 o'clock midnight, I was up and wandering the train because I just could not sleep. I got my rest, but I couldn't sleep much anymore. And there was an announcement given that somebody was caught in one of the cars smoking on board the train. Now, smoking on airplanes is strictly prohibited. Smoking on Amtrak is even more strict, which is weird to think. You would think that it would be a little bit more lapsed. No, it's exceptionally more strict. Because on an airplane, you get a charge, and like you get in serious trouble, I think, legally with being on an airplane. On Amtrak, you not only get in legal trouble, you get kicked off of the train, which means they will stop at the next station and purposely throw you off the train if you're caught smoking on board. And there is no place to hide on that train to smoke. No place. Because I looked everywhere on that train with the mindset of where I could go and be like, okay, if I was to smoke a cigarette or I was to vape, where would I go? I did vape on the trip because I do vape. People have seen me vape on stream, and I vape occasionally while recording. But I was not stupid, and I wasn't going to be like, oh, I'm going to sneak a vape on the train. No, I wasn't going to do that. I was going to obey every single rule possible because I knew that I had to. I had to make an impression to Amtrak, regardless of if they cared or not, that I wasn't going to break the rules. So, in this entire ordeal, I'm downstairs using the bathrooms. The bathrooms are a little different than an airplane bathroom in that they are much better for doing a number 2 versus on an airplane. But the thing that bothered me was that on the Zephyr, the bathrooms were quite large. They were spacious. You could very easily fit, like, I would say like maybe 2-3 people if you squeezed into this bathroom. They were very spacious. On the Eagle, on the other hand, they were outhouses just shoved into the cars. They had all the amenities and everything that you needed, like toilet paper, water to wash your hands, everything like that. They had that. But it was so cramped that I'm 6'3 3/4. When I would sit in the bathroom, without giving away too many unnecessary details, my knees hit the door. That is how tiny these bathrooms are. My knees were hitting the doors of these toilets, and it was just like, this is small. So anyway, I get out of the bathroom, and one of the conductors comes rushing down the stairs, gets in my face, and goes, "Are you smoking cigarettes down here?" And I went, "No, sir, I am not." He goes, "Empty your pockets. I need to see what you have." So I immediately empty my pockets, and the only 3 things I had on me were my phone, my wallet, and a vape pen. It was at this point that the conductor immediately apologized for being super aggressive. Let me repeat that. This conductor realized that he had accused someone innocently of being guilty and immediately backpedaled. He wanted to make sure I was okay, that I did not get freaked out, that I did not get scared, that I was not in trouble. He wanted that to be clear. He was like, "You're not in trouble. I just needed to know if you had anything like that on board so that we can rule you out." And I was like, "No, I get it. It's a stressful situation. It's the middle of the night. You've got situations that you've got to deal with." But it turned out that the smell, or whoever it was, had moved from the car where they had been previously caught to our passenger car. So he made a private announcement over our speakers, waking everybody up on the car, demanding that if we spot anybody or smell anybody with a cigarette scent, to report it immediately. And he left immediately afterwards. Which means they were casing this train looking for one person who was smoking. That is how strict it was. So, midnight passes, I go back to sleep, and then I wake up at like 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning for a layover stop, and I went outside and snapped this picture of our train outside of the terminal, or outside of the station during this break. And it was a gorgeous picture, and I really did enjoy it. It was great. I loved it. I loved taking these pictures on board. Next day, we wake up at 6 o'clock I wake up specifically at 6 o'clock to an announcement over the loudspeaker that the cafe car has reopened and the diner car is open for breakfast, with once again announcing that it's for sleeping passengers and first class only. So I got Warhorse and I a breakfast and came upstairs. It was at this point that Warhorse decided that she was going to do something she wouldn't normally do, and she attempted to walk the train. Warhorse! Do you want to talk about that experience?
No. Oh, actually...
Yeah, talk about it real quick.
While we were walking, I have to rush back to the seat because I don't feel comfortable walking at all.
Which is a justified thing, by the way. I get it that not everybody can walk on a train or a plane or a boat. I get it.
While I was walking, the train shifted, causing me to almost fall into a priest.
Right! I forgot to mention that. On the California Zephyr, a priest was traveling with us, or at least with us on board the train, and he transferred trains onto the Eagle. So he was riding with us as well. I had made a huge mistake in this process because Warhorse here nearly crashed into the priest, and I felt super scared. So I tried to pass the priest as well, and in the process, the train bucked. And normally I can keep my footing, but it was turning, and then it bucked. I'm used to trains going like 17 miles an hour tops on the railroad. This is 70 to 80 miles an hour. Not something that I'm comfortable with in my walking on a train. So I nearly crashed into the priest. And
also saying some not so good things in front of a priest.
No, I accidentally swore in front of the priest. However, positive note is that the priest was not angry with us. He just kind of looked at us and understood what the situation was and kind of just gave us a nod and continued doing what he was doing. I was lucky enough to bump into him at a rest stop, a layover stop, and apologized to him for the situation at hand. And he said it was fine. So the train continued in the morning. We all got kind of woken up. I did get woken up by a conductor because the conductor got transferred while I was asleep. So he was on board. He got on board the train while I was sleeping in the observation car and didn't know if I was a passenger or a squatting passenger, which is now apparently the technical term for a hobo on an Amtrak. Is someone who's train hopping is called a squatting passenger. Mm-hmm. Didn't know that. I think it would just be easier to call him a squatter or a hitcher or a hobo. It makes more sense that way. So he woke me up and he was like, where are you going? And I was like, San Antonio. Because that's where our endeavor was ending for the first half of this story. So the 6 o'clock happens and everything's kind of going all hunky-dory and everything's going all good and all happy-doodly-doo. And then my brother calls. Now my brother, I love him. And in this particular segment, I want to thank my brother directly. You, brother, because I know you're watching this because you said you were going to, fool. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to make this happen. We really appreciate that you went out of your way to let us have this endeavor and come visit you by train, and then everything else fell into place pretty darn well. There were a couple of hiccups, but that's what's part of the adventure. That's just what's part of the adventure. Are you taking off for the night?
Maybe.
Okay. So, Warhorse, bye-bye. I was going to have you talk about your experience on the train at the end of this. If you're interested, that is. So, this is when my brother finds out the newest struggle with our situation, where we're supposed to arrive at 10 o'clock at night. Saturday is his birthday. We were supposed to go camping with him that day, but unfortunately, because of the train and everything else going on, we were unable to go camping with him for a long period of time, which is okay, but we still got to go camping, and it was still fun while it lasted. So the rest of the trip pretty much goes off without a hitch. I keep getting up and wandering the train, and it starts to get to the point for me where I start to get antsy that we're not going to make it on time. Because in my head, we're supposed to get there at 10. But it's starting to seem like with each of these stops, the conductors start warning the passengers that we're running behind schedule. Which is a factor in railroading and is a factor in air travel. I don't know how much of a factor it is when it comes to cruises. I'll talk about that if I ever go on a cruise. So we start hearing rumors that we're going to be late, which means we could be getting in anywhere between 10 when we're supposed to be, or Sunday. And that's a problem, because in the cases of us, we had other things going on that required us to be on the ground before Sunday. Which is a factor in a lot of these things. Thankfully, the engineers knew what they were doing, the crews knew what they were doing, and the railroads were able to get on their butts and get us there on time. There were moments where, like this picture here at Fort Worth, we were able to stop and I got a panoramic shot of what the station looked like. I also got these pictures of other Amtrak locomotives sitting on the sidelines waiting for their trains. Additionally, I got pictures of the Texas commuter service in an astonishing red, white, and blue. And if my brother Golden Fantasy is watching this, they're still running F40PHs in this area, which is really cool because F40PH is ex-Amtrak. So it was really cool. It was really a fantastic situation to get to see older Amtrak technology running with newer Amtrak technology, but we didn't see any chargers. There were no chargers on this entire line. Now, when I say chargers, I'm not talking about the outlets, because every train had the outlets, so we could plug in our phones and keep them charged as we went. No, the chargers I'm talking about are the new Amtrak charger locomotives that are part of their new fleet of machines that are taking over the ones that we were riding behind. So, when I'm talking about chargers, I will emphasize whether I'm talking about chargers of the locomotive or chargers for your phone. So, we eventually get to, I think it was, I forget what the station is, but here's a picture of the station that I'm thinking of. And they also had museum pieces here too, but they had museum pieces from the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe. And here's a picture of some of the stuff that they did, and I'm going to have it over as I do it, because this was really cool. But my favorite part, y'all know it, was seeing this steam locomotive sitting outside of the platform with a water spout still functioning over it. Now, what I forgot to realize was that this picture that I previously showed of the CB&Q engine, it also had a water spout. I didn't know that until I went back and looked at the pictures while I was riding the train and went, oh, they both had them. So, we continue down the adventure. We eventually get into Austin, Texas. Now, as we're going through Texas, I got nervous. Because here's a video of us going through St. Louis, Missouri, over the rivers of St. Louis, and we're going into St. Louis, Missouri to stop. Beautiful area. Really, really cool, especially getting to go over the bridges and everything. It was fantastic to get to do this kind of thing. Here's a video of us leaving the station in Austin, Texas. We are in the middle of downtown. It is crowded. There are people everywhere. It's one of those situations, it's such a culture shock. And I don't say that very often, but it is indeed a culture shock that we went from these open cities with hardly any people anywhere to traveling through Austin, Texas, And we went under overpasses and behind industries and stuff, and there were people living under the bridges near the trains. They even made an announcement coming to Austin to not allow anybody who did not already get off the train onto the train, because apparently they're having trouble with people who are homeless and houseless hopping Amtraks to get from place to place. I don't see that as a problem. I see that as it's a necessity for them. But they were classifying it as a problem, so I didn't know what to do. Thankfully, nobody tried to do anything sneaky or shady or whatever with me, but it felt crazy just traveling through Austin, through these apartment buildings. Literally through apartment buildings. I missed the picture of the Amtrak traveling through an apartment building. Not under an apartment building, not around an apartment building. We went through an apartment building. The apartments were on either side of the train as we went through the building. How people can live like that, I don't know, but I want your address, because I will absolutely live there. Finally, at 10 o'clock at night, we stopped in San Antonio, Texas, and I got out and snapped a picture of the train before it left, because I was like, we're finally here. And then I ran all the way down the platform and caught these two pictures. Granted, they're not the best, but I was tired and I had just ran down the platform to snap the photographs of a Southern Pacific Mikado with a Vanderbilt tender that I've never seen before. Never seen this locomotive before in my life. It was so cool to get to witness it and see it. Zeus, you're not supposed to be climbing on that. That's why I moved the chair. And this clip right here, I'm gonna cut this in right here, unedited, is my initial reaction to getting off of the train. And I think my words will speak for themselves.
Well, if this video goes according to plan, this will be somewhere in the middle of the clips and everything, and the photographs and talking about the train ride. But I am officially fresh off of the train. It's behind me there. I'm officially fresh off. And I gotta say, out of everything I've done cross country when it comes to trucking and flying, this has been the most fun I've had. Riding this train, getting to experience this, it was a blast. And I hope that future me remembers to put this in the video. But I am absolutely traveling by train again. But maybe next time I'm gonna book it myself, and definitely gonna get a sleeper car, because the seats were, after about the first couple of hours, I didn't stay in my seat. I left and kept wandering the train. But yeah, for initial experience, I'm doing this again.
So that is my initial response to coming off of the Amtrak for the first time. Yes, Zeus, that was the actual reaction. I promise. It's not edited or photoshopped. That was me getting off of the train. So that was the end of our Amtrak adventures section of this video. Because this is going to be a long one, because I've been gone for a while. The videos you guys have been seeing going up, I pre-recorded the day before the trip. And so I want to make this longer video so that you know what was going on, so that you guys have something to know what was the deal. So I finally got to go see my brother, and I was stoked to go see him because it was such a blast to get to see him. And we went camping, we had a great time. We did have to leave the campsite early due to a flood warning, so we had to escape Texas and run and get out of that whole situation, which was completely understandable. So we went back to his place and we rested for a while. And then we played some games together, we hung out, we ate sushi, we had a blast just for the little bit of time that we had together because our flight left at 8. Yes, I said flight. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles 2.0, as my mother would say. This was a huge endeavor. So then we packed all our stuff up after we were done hanging out with my brother and we were saying our goodbyes and farewells, that is where the shorts video came in. This one, where I was just like, let's play with this dog for a little bit, and she was playing Keepsy Upsy with a balloon, which was so cute. If you guys want to go see it, go see it. It's so cute. It's so cute. But anyway, we get to the airport like an hour before our flight takes off, which some people are like, you went there like an hour? You're supposed to get there like 3-4 hours. No, we got there like an hour, 2 hours before we needed to get on our flight. And we were flying Frontier, and the Frontier staff were so kind. They were almost on par with Amtrak. Almost. They were just a little different than Amtrak. So they helped us rearrange our seats because we ended up sitting in 2 separate areas. We wanted to sit together. So we sat together and we flew from San Antonio, Texas to Denver, Colorado. From Denver, Colorado, we were going to go meet up with my sister. So sis, if you're watching this, thanks for letting us stay the night. We really appreciate it, and you were awesome, and you were a great host, and like I appreciate everything you did while we were there. Even with what time we had, it was still fun, and I'm glad I got to see you. So we fly into Denver, and we land at the airport, and immediately we call my sister, and we're like, we've landed in Denver, and I call my brother, and we're like, we've landed in Denver. Where do we go from here? And they're like, you need to get on the ground transport light rail trains, and you need to get to Union Station before you can go anywhere else. And we were like, okay, got it. So we ran out of the station as quickly as ran out of the terminal in the airport as quickly as possible, nearly blowing out my knee in the process, and we end up getting to the light rail. This is where our problem starts to get worse, at least for this current situation, because now we're exhausted from the flight, not from everything else. So we go to the light rail, and I try and buy a one-way ticket to all stations from the airport to Union Station in Denver, so that we can get on a second train and take off closer to my sister's house so that she could come pick us up. My card refused to be read by this machine. This machine refused to read my card, and the train was leaving in 2 minutes. Sound familiar to something else? Yeah, we were dealing with another Amtrak situation, but it wasn't Amtrak, it was light rail in Colorado. So now we're stuck with the problem of, well, what do we do? Because we can't get the train ticket, what do we do? So we immediately go talk to a security officer, like, we don't have a ticket, but we need this train. What do we do? The security guy automatically says, did you try and buy a ticket? And we went, yes. Can you download the app on my phone? No, because my phone is a work phone, and I already have lost all of my storage space trying to take the pictures and all the other apps I need for work. So I was like, I can't download this app to get the tickets on my phone. He just says, forget it, I'll talk to the security. Don't worry, this happens more than you think. So we start walking towards the train. Once we get on board to the train, or towards the train, another security guard stops us and asks to see our ticket. To which I respond with, well, we don't have a ticket, but the other security guard says that we can get on board the train. She goes, you can't do that. You have to have a ticket to get on board the train. The other security guard explains the situation, and she finally is like, okay, well, I get your situation. Just get on board and do not talk to the rest of the security on the train. And I was like, got it. So we get on board the train and we start flying towards Union Station. So now we've been on 3 trains from 2 different companies. So we get to Union Station. When we get to Union Station, we find out that all the other trains are not in the terminal at all. They're all gone, which means we would have to wait for them to reach the end of their line, turn around, and come back. And considering all of these are stopping services, none of them would get back for several hours at least. So Warhorse and I collectively agree, screw this, we're gonna Uber. Which is my first time on an Uber. So it's my first time going on the light rail, first time going on Amtrak, and first time ever having to deal with whatever kind of crap was going on at this airport. My goodness. So we Uber there. Our Uber driver was absolutely awesome. I made sure to tip him because I know how it is with Uber drivers, or at least I vaguely understand it because I had a friend that was an Uber. Like, their tips are what they live off of. So he gets us to my sister's place, and we spend the rest of the night just having fun, eating pizza, chatting and talking and whatever, and everything's fine. The next day, we wake up, we have some breakfast, we have some lunch later on, we play a couple of board games. We played Take 5, which was a great board game to play. If you've ever played the card game of Take 5, it's really fun. Go find it. It's great. And we played a game of Pandemic, but we forgot to read the rules correctly, so we beat the game way too quickly. Which was funny in its own right, but it was also fun because it was a good experience for us to just play some board games. I got to re-meet my sister's dog Valentine, who is the cutest miniature Australian Shepherd ever. She's the most adorable creature in the world, and we have known each other since I was a kid, because when I was about like 8 years old, she was a puppy. And I'm 23 now, so she's like 14 in dog years. And they're only supposed to live to like 13 or 10. So she's a senior, but she is so cute, so fluffy, but she hates dudes and she hates tall people. I'm a dude and I'm tall. Two things that immediately make me public enemy number one in her eyes. Funny thing is though, you start playing fetch with her, she forgets it. Absolutely forgets it. So, keep in mind, let me recap real quick for you. We left our home and the studio at 3 a.m. on Friday. It is now Sunday. So we have been traveling for 3 days straight now. But we're getting to experience a lot of fun with family and friends alike, which is the critical part of this whole endeavor. That was the whole reason this trip happened in the first place, was that so I could have a birthday present and that I could at least spend some of my brother's birthday with him, which was the main ordeal. That was the big thing that we wanted to do, and we did it. So, Sunday rolls around, and I get a text message from my stepfather that I am supposed to work Monday. And I'm like, I'm not flying in till like Monday night. Because we flew from San Antonio to Denver on Saturday night. No, Sunday night. We flew in on Sunday night because we spent Sunday with my brother. I'm getting my story mixed up here a little bit because there's just so many details to this whole thing. So we fly in, we leave Denver on Monday, and we end up getting stalled on the tarmac because of the storm. So we have to turn our plane around, take off in the wrong direction, to then fly up to cruising altitude and fly over the storm. So we had to fly, instead of going east towards Iowa, we had to fly west towards Utah, and then we had to come back around. So we didn't fly all the way to Utah. I'm not saying that we flew all the way to Utah. I'm just saying for perspective, that's the distance that we were flying, and that's the direction we were flying. So we came back around, and the pilot was like, "Oh, it's going to take like an hour and 45 minutes for us to get to Des Moines. Oh, it's going to take an hour and 30 minutes. We're getting there in an hour and 19 minutes." When we got into the air, he announces we're going to be there in an hour, and I was just like, what are they doing to make this plane go from, it's going to take us an hour and 45 minutes to get there, to now we're going to be there in 60 minutes? What? What are they doing to this plane? What kind of Back to the Future Doctor Who BS are they pulling to make this plane go that fast? Regardless, we get on the plane, and we deal with a minor discrepancy, like a minor Karen incident, if you want to call it. It was like a very, very minor. My seat was behind Warhorse's seat, and Warhorse was in front of me. But when we got on the plane, somebody took Warhorse's seat, and we had to be like, hey, like, you're kind of in our seat. And the pilots were like, the stewardess were like, well, you guys have got to move, and then you've got to move, and then everybody's got to move, and then when the plane's all situated, then you can move seats and switch seats if there's open seats. Well, when all the seats get settled, I convince Warhorse, it's like, hey, I know how you are when it comes to, like, traveling in situations. She can explain that more when it's her section of the video. So why don't you come back here and sit with me so that, everything's, hunky-dory and safe and what have you. So she moves back to my back over near me, and we take off. And we get to Iowa, and we land safely. Everything's cool. My stepsister's boyfriend picks us up, and we make one brief stop to go just let our legs stretch and get reorganized. And it is at this point, between the flight and landing, that I find out that I have work yesterday. And it was like, well, I can't do that because I'm flying in super late. Can we work tomorrow, which is today when I'm recording this video? So I ended up working today, and I've been having a couple of things that have been going on in the background. Because of travel, I've been exhausted still from this, and so there's a lot going on behind the scenes. But all in all, this trip started Friday, July 11th at 3 a.m. and ended July 14th at 8:45 p.m. And what do I have to say about it? Well, in the long and the short of it, it was worth every congested minute of it. It was worth every itty-bitty little good thing, bad thing, major good thing that ever happened. We never had one major bad thing occur on the entire trip. It was all good. And I'm glad that I got to have the experience of this endeavor, because I may never get to travel by Amtrak again. I'm a rewards member with them now, because of course I am. But am I ever going to be able to take an Amtrak again and ride it cross-country? I don't think so. But the states that we traveled through include Iowa, Illinois, Missouri, Arkansas, Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Colorado, back to Iowa. That's a long trip. That's a lot of states for me to hit in one go. And it was worth every minute of it. It was worth every single minute of it. I'm gonna go ask Warhorse if she wants to pitch in and say a little bit about what she experienced on the trip, because my experience is coming from someone who already knew railroading, already knows what railroading is kind of like. And I'm the old school railroader. I love steam locomotives and I work on historical railroad equipment all the time. But it's the person who's never done it before with me that it's kind of like, how do you feel about it? So let me go ask her if she wants to be participating. Okay, so Warhorse has requested to not share her 2 cents on this, which is okay. I respect that. But I'm certain in the comment section I'll have her probably answer a couple of questions, Q&A, and what have you. I did do one stream while on the train. One singular stream while on the train on Twitch. Nobody showed up, which is okay and fine. I get it. I really didn't announce what the hell I was doing, but that's okay. So, in conclusion, for this entire thing, bless you! Would I travel by train, cross-country, again, to go visit people or just to do it? Absolutely, positively, yes. I would 100% travel by train again. Because something about trains to me is just different. And I'm gonna get real serious here for just a moment. Real serious. Traveling by train, you meet people. You talk to people. You get to experience people doing things that are just canonically different than when you're on an airplane or a bus or you're on literally any other form of transportation. You don't get that ability to make friends. You don't get that ability to just see where people are going, learn where people are going, learn where people are from, have that opportunity to connect with your fellow passenger like you do on a plane. Because I feel like in a plane, it's not really a social environment. It's a getting from point A to point B environment. That's what that is. On a train, you're meeting new people every stop. You're meeting new crew. You're meeting new everything on the trip, with the exception of food. you're experiencing a new thing practically every day. Every hour, every minute is a new experience. It's a new something. And that's to me something that I feel like railroading just gives the public. It gives the public a chance to connect again. Like, without the phone. Because like I was saying before, there were dead zones everywhere on the trip. And I spent more time either talking with Warhorse or talking with people whom I've never met and may never meet again on board the train. While on the plane, I talked to nobody. I talked to one dude on the plane. One guy. That's not counting flight crew. But on the train, it was a breath of fresh air. It was a breath of being in my element while simultaneously jumping out of my comfort zone and not being anywhere that I'm familiar with. Like, I love trains. Like, you can't see it in my collection shelf because I have all of my expensive trains put away. But I love trains. You see that from me playing Railroader, that I have a passion for this. I have a passion for Star Wars, but you can't really travel Star Wars. You can't travel with Star Wars. If you're doing cosplay and stuff, sure. But that's not... That's fictional. This is all Star Wars is fictional. But the train isn't. The train is a chance to connect. Really connect with people. And it also felt like the glamour of passenger trains isn't the same anymore. Like, at my museum, when I ride that museum train, every single time, my excursions, every single time I go out on one, and it's being run by our steam locomotive, who is my baby girl, my favorite locomotive of all locomotives out there. And I am biased, because in terms of preservation railroads, she is my favorite. In terms of narrow gauge passenger train or excursion trains, I've got to give it to Rio Grande Southern number 20. I love Rio Grande Southern number 20. If I have to give it to mainline excursion stars, it goes to J Class 611, Nickel Plate Road 765, the Union Pacific crew, and for me, the Empress, the Canadian Pacific engine that went through. I love them. But that's a glamour and charm that you don't get with Amtrak, but at the same time you do. You have the opportunity to ride these trains and still experience passenger service in modern America. But my next adventure that I would love to do, should I travel by train, is fly all the way to the UK. I want to fly to the UK and ride preservation lines in UK. I want to do that. And see if it's a different sensation riding their trains versus ours. I want to know. But all in all, looking at each one of these pictures that I've shown off, it taught me that my love for trains isn't just a fad. It's not a phase. It's nothing like that. It's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle you have to live because, yeah, I'm Gamerman. I play video games all the time. I've been playing Railroad games and I've been playing other games here in and out on the channel, and I'm going to go back to playing other games here soon. Minecraft is coming back. There's other games in the woodworks that I'm working on playing, so don't flip out that I'm only playing Railroader. I'm going to get around to other games. Like, I've restarted playing 60 Seconds again. You're going to see more 60 Seconds gameplay coming up. You're going to see Phasmophobia gameplay because the Phasmophobia got updated. You're going to see games with Cameron Murray's games because Cameron, my god, you've been working on that forever and I haven't gotten time to just sit down and record your stuff. You may have also noticed that this entire time while recording this video, my audio might sound a little different. My headphones are busted entirely. They're busted. It's nobody's fault that they're broken. They just broke due to age. So it happens, and it's okay. The cat used to throw them around all the time, so I'm assuming that it has something to do with that furry munchkin doing dumb stuff with them. All in all, will I ever travel by train again? Absolutely. I'm traveling by train again. Do I want to do the same route? No. I want to travel somewhere else by train. If I can travel a train by Denver, I will. If I can travel to North Carolina by train, I will. If I can travel to California by train, I will. But I want to do this again. But if I'm doing it again, I'm doing it in a damn sleeper car. Because I want to know what it's like to sleep in a sleeper car on a train. I've slept in coach. Now it's time to check sleepers. I appreciate you guys sticking around for this long-ass, just video journal video. A VJ. Video journal video. And, I'm not gonna put the sponsorship in this one. I've been doing it in a couple other videos, or at least the way I did it last time. But I'm gonna put right up here in this corner the product reviews of Dubby, and you can use my creator code down below for 10% off your order. And I thank you guys for your patience with recording this and waiting till I got home to talk about this. Hello! So if I just came in at the end of the video, after actually talking about this from the outside POV, we're coming right to the end of this, and I'm wrapping up the video. From your POV,
I'm staring you down
watching from the outside of me going on this Amtrak adventure and airplane adventure, would you ever take the opportunity to travel in such a way, provided that you had a sleeper car?
If I had a sleeper car, yes, but I would not be getting on the plane.
You would not get on the plane. No.
I don't. Violet doesn't do planes.
Even though she's a bird, she doesn't do planes. Figure that one out, people. So, with that being said, and Zeus not knowing what is going on, I want to thank you all for watching this very long, drawn-out
Did you sniff
video.
The people? How are the vibes? You don't pass the vibe check? Here, do it again.
But, like, seriously, thank you all so much for this. Being patient with me. Videos will be coming again soon. I'm going to be recording more.
Someone passed the vibe check. I don't know who it was.
Probably my brother who's watching. So.
Could be. I don't know.
But, like, I appreciate you all for sticking around for this very long video. If you got to the end, tell me in the comment section that you got to the end by yelling pineapple in the comment section. Just say pineapple that you made it to the end of the video. And timestamp for me, while you're also yelling pineapple in the comment section, timestamp your favorite part of me talking about this endeavor. Whether it was the photographs, whether it was the video clips, whether it was whatever. Just let me know what your favorite part was hearing about this endeavor.
Or to be the Zeus cam.
Everybody's just like, it's Zeus!
It's Zeus!
It's the Zeusels! Where the hell he
He's
went,
over
I
there.
don't know. But, like, if you guys tag Zeus, that's fine. If you tag pictures, that's fine. But let me know in the comments what you guys enjoyed about this adventure. And I'm sorry I couldn't record more footage of the trains. But my phone has, like, net zero space. I was able to record what little I did. I had to delete stuff just to record this. But thank you guys so much for watching this video, and if you like this video and you want to see more videos like this, hit the like button down below, hit the subscribe button down below, hit the notification button, become part of the Gamer team. Check out everything else on my channel. Go ahead, like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell if you want to. And, actually, with this being said, at the end of this video, this might be, in theory, if this video gets done at a certain specific time and gets uploaded, this might be the last time that physically Violet will be part of the GT Studio household. Mm-hmm. She is leaving to go live a new life down in Texas, and she is going to basically be taking a new role in life. Now, for those who haven't known this, and I'm going to just talk about this ever so slightly, I have known her since my sophomore year of high school.
My freshman year of high school.
And we have been around for more times than I care to count. I've lost count how many different times we've had adventures together, done stuff together, been inseparable. And at the end of this video, if you've made it past my outro, when you're long gone, I want you to come back to this if you ever want to, while you're here. But I want to say that out of every person that has stuck by my side through some of the hardest moments in my life and some of the easiest moments of my life as of about a month ago, give or take, she went through with me the hardest and most heartbreaking time of my life. She did. You all know this. She did. And whenever you come back to this video, I'm talking to future you, I want you to know that wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and wherever you've been, I thank you for everything. And I appreciate that even now, with several states between us, you still make it a parent to annoy my ass every day. And I cannot thank you enough for that. And please, for the love of God, I need more Princey pictures. You're not sending enough of them. Like, send more. When you get this in the future, send more. Send Zeus pictures. I don't care. Find a pigeon and send me a picture. More pictures of your life in the future. But thank you to everyone for being so supportive. And if you're not shouting pineapple and timestamps in the comment section, I want everyone in the comment section possible to tag in the comments Godspeed Violet and encourage her on her endeavors in her new life. And for fuck's sake, if you don't come and visit me, I'm dragging my ass by a train to come get you and dragging your ass by a train to come back. That is what's going to happen. And now you can take that to the bank and cash it and watch the check bounce, because it's most likely not going to happen. But I'm going to try. So with everything being said, if this happens to be the last video with Vi,
I got your back phone.
it will be the last video. I do intend real quick, after doing this, I'm going to do something else real quick. But thank you, everybody. And I will see you all in whatever gaming video I do next. I'm going to flip a coin and figure it out later. But bye! Bye-bye!